And it sounds like 10 seconds is up. There we go, live. Hey, happy Friday. Happy Pi Day Friday. I don't know if we have that forward or backward yet. Friday Pi Day or Friday Friday, but either way, let's call it drama and get that adjusted. There we go, I can fix that. And welcome to Pi searchers and researchers and CompTIA students and anybody else who has any kind of interest in this stuff. Shoot, I left this on. Well, hi, my name is David Rush. I'm the senior instructor at Total Seminars, and this is Friday Pi Day. Every Friday, we get together for a couple of hours and talk about ways to use Raspberry Pi. We've been talking about using it as a primary learning aid in preparing for CompTIA exams. We're going to continue to do that, but the heavy lifting part of that's over. We've gone through really heavy lifting stuff by listing directory structures in standard Linux systems and gone over about 40 Linux commands and lots of other goodies. And each time we do one of those presentations, we've tried to spice it up a little bit, add a server, add some WireShark experimentation, something like that. But that stuff is generally done. So now what we're going to do is morph this into a little bit more fun, just neat things you can do with a Pi. We'll tie in some educational value for it as well, but it should be kind of fun. So let me see what I'm supposed to do and say, think for a couple of minutes and get myself settled in. First of all, everybody know that a few minutes, next 5-10 minutes, we are expecting Scott Jernigan to join us. He's got some input, he's got some fun together, kind of working well as a partnership. We'll do a lot of this together today. I'm looking forward to bringing him in or seeing when he comes in. He's got a great deal more expertise, I think, than he's willing to let on. He's been writing all the other great seminars products that he's really built in some. Oh, I hope I'm not buffering. Oh, let me see. Yeah, there's some buffer. I saw that in our morning meeting too. All right. Well, we will keep trying because I know I've got a good signal going into Zoom. I see that echoing back fine, and I saw everybody else fine. So I'm going to blame this one on YouTube, and we'll do what we can. Yes, bad connection from Dave to Zoom. No, I disagree with that, Michael. I show a solid connection to and from Zoom, and I had solid connections from you guys when you were on there. So this may turn out that we have to bring Scott in sooner just to cover all the bases. All right, tell you what, I'm going to try something. Scott, why don't you come on for a second, and I'm going to kill my Zoom connection and reestablish one.
Hey, everybody. How are you?
Hey, Scott. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to kill out of here. I'm going to come back in a few moments.
All right, sounds good. We'll try it again. Yay. This is Dave signing out. Oh, and me in full screen. Live and in color, in person. Hi, I'm Scott Jernigan. I'm editor-in-chief for Total Seminars, one of Mike Myers' partners in crime for the last couple of decades, and a writer in my own right, and star of the IT Fundamentals video series that some of you have watched. So there you go. Tullowit, hey. Yeah, Scarhart, that's right. That's right. That's my nickname. So I assume I'm not buffering, right? My connection is clear. Someone say yes or no, if you would, please. And I would appreciate that. Okay, so Dave will rejoin us here in a minute, and we'll figure out what's going on. If not, it could be me not talking about the Pi all day. Dave is coming back in, and looks totally crisp. Well, shoot.
Okay.
Still buffering a little.
On Zoom. Let me look at myself. Camera. YouTube. It's not as fuzzy. Okay.
So it's still a little buffered, but yeah.
Well, hopefully it's better than it was. Everything looks
Everything
good
looks
on
good
the
on the
panels.
panels.
All right.
All right, I missed.
What
What
did
did
you
you
do?
do?
I just said hi and introduced myself.
Well,
Well,
excellent.
excellent.
Okay, well, let's
Okay,
get
let's
to
get
the prelims out of the way and do some fun today.
Sounds good.
Oh, notes.
Notes.
So this
So
is number 4 in the Raspberry Pi series. We do these every Friday. Total Seminars does 3 of these presentations a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Mike normally does the Monday, Wednesday shows. He's asked a couple of us to try to fill in the big shoes on occasion, but should be another week or so. I would think he starts to get back to Houston. Last time we heard, I saw a picture of him this morning meandering about the Napa Valley with a vine around his neck. So I'm guessing he's going to bring some grapes home and start fermenting.
Excellent.
Yeah, should be fun.
We'll have the
So we're
Total
here
Seminars brand.
on at Central Time, 2 to 4 p.m. on those days. Fridays we devote to this little presentation. So we're calling it Pi Day Friday. Scott and I were talking a little bit last week and early this week. We may even kind of expand that. We mentioned last week in answer to somebody's question that everything we're doing here doesn't always have to be done on a Pi. In fact, probably 90% of what we do here could easily be done on a virtual machine in a Linux distro. Some of it could be just done on a real Windows machine. We're going to do a media server installation today, and that same software can go on 6 different platforms. So if you're interested in the media server itself and not in the fact that we can throw it on a Pi, awesome. We'll show you how and where to download that and how you can install it. It'll be cool. Have you got a Kodi server running, Scott, these days?
I don't yet,
Okay.
but I'm gonna after this show. I'm actually totally looking forward to this. Just for the
go ahead.
I tried back in the XBMC days, which you'll explain.
Right.
later.
Yeah, we had some problems with that, I remember.
Yeah, and I just couldn't ever get it stable enough. So I gave up and went on to
right. Gets better and better every time, but you know, it's still kind of Wild West out there, so it'll be interesting. I was really reticent to install it on my daily driver here because unfortunately I have kind of an easily distractible personality. So I've experimented with it a couple of days, done what I needed to do, and I'm going to use it for the show today, and then I'm going to take it off because I know it will just mess up my productivity.
Don't do that. Yeah. Got to stay strong, Dave.
Right. So it's a drama. It's a Dave Rush Ask Me Anything, or we're going to call it dramas. We'll add a and Scott.
I like it.
Thanks. And so seriously, ask us anything. We can talk about certainly just about any CompTIA topic, especially the big 4, the ITF, Sec Plus, Net Plus, A Plus, and some of the other ones going above and beyond. We're willing to talk about just about any techno topic. And Scott was telling me the other day that he's looking forward to hearing your questions that he has about his personal life. So kidding. Not so much, huh?
Yeah, we have a saying around the office that there's the line. Dave, come back.
Yeah, Dave has a saying around the office. What's a line? All right, let me pop something up here, and Scott can talk about it because he's really good at this.
Oh, of course, this is our contact information. If you want to get a hold of us, or get hold of us, I guess, more technically, grammatically better. Dave Rush, his company email is daver@totalsim.com. His personal email, which he's sharing with you there, is drushtx@yahoo.com. Don't mail him at both addresses with the same question. Of course, he gets both of them equally well. If you're a gamer on Steam, Dave is Blood Rush TX. I'm Scarhart with no E. And my email is scottj@totalsim.com. And our phone number at Total Seminars is 281-922-4166. Nobody's at the physical location of our office right now. But on the other hand, the phones are forwarded to our phone people. And if you really need to talk to us directly, it can happen. It might just take a day or so. So feel free to contact us with questions. If you have things that go beyond where we are in the chat and want to go into a more in-depth question, please email us. We love this stuff. Yeah, and we're here specifically for you during this time of quarantine and lockdown. And in fact, just for you for this week. We have a special deal on 50% off all Total Tester standalone products. Just use the code Mike Myers or MMLive Yellowstone at checkout. I'll also post that in the chat so that it's there. Also, we haven't talked about this in the last week or two, but our marketing department is very much interested in people who are trying to teach or teaching actively CompTIA certifications and using our materials. We have amazing deals for you there because we really, really want you to succeed in your class. So if you are an active teacher, please contact Kathy Yale. So Kathy Y at totalsim.com and ask her about the remote learning gift, right? The Mike's teacher feature.
Right, and she's got great stuff. I think she's got some giveaway stuff for teachers. And Mike has warned you before. We'll pass along his warning. Don't try to call Kathy if you're not a teacher teaching a remote class. She will suss you out and hunt you down and have her dog bite your tires. Okay, she knows.
Okay, secretly she only has a cat, but that cat has very sharp teeth.
I speak figuratively. Hey, I want to apologize. It's actually been like this for a couple of weeks. I'm just including this in my housekeeping. You may, on occasion, see a little bit of shake like that. It's because I have a small tripod mounted on my desk with a little bit of a shaky leg. I got a new tripod this weekend. It was missing a part. I called the company in the last day or two. They're sending me the missing part. And once I get floor mounted again, I think the floor will be more stable than the desk. So apologies for the little buzz right now, but it will pass in short order.
See, I thought you'd shifted to Southern California and those were just little mini trimmers. Nice. Or something. And all of our California people are going, no, please don't jinx us.
We got enough problems.
Right.
All right. So who's here? And and wow, everybody's checked in already. We got a good bit of welcoming.
Yeah. So Tullowit, good morning. Yes, hello.
Tullowit, I have something of an answer for you before we roll on here. This is a question you asked on Wednesday. I got all my stuff on my screen. I can't see what I'm showing. Can you get multiple Pis working together on the same project? I'm paraphrasing your question. So this is one of the number of clusters that I have. And then what would normally happen, of course, we've got an Ethernet cable coming out of there and going into, this will be interesting, a little 8-port switch like this. So I got 6 boxes here. So I can use 6 of the ports and then another port to go to the next switch with 8 ports. And there's always one left over to feed. And then you can see the way I'm powering these ones. I'm using an Anker 85 watt. I don't know, it's a phone charger, right? So you stick your phone in these slots and stick your tablets and whatever. And then you would use a USB to C or USB micro, whatever, and plug into there. But I've repurposed this thing to feed a pile of Pis. So I've got 4 or 5 sets of these for an ongoing project that I'm either always working on or changing up. Okay, I'm making a mess there. I'm just gonna drop this on the floor. So that's one of the ways.
That's how we treat equipment.
What you've asked.
So that's how we treat equipment.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Take it on the floor.
But it's really good being down here on the basement or on the first floor because the ceiling was sagging upstairs when it was up there. Hello, Brendan S. So Brendan and I exchanged emails the other day. His issue was exactly what we thought it was. He needs to convert. Yeah, he's working on creating a DNS server in-house, and he's got one that's conflicting from Comcast.
Right.
There's a commonly published solution all over the web, and he and I believe that will solve his problem as well. So.
Excellent. And that's another good reason. If you have some question that we can't answer right away definitively, email it to us. We're happy to do the research with you and help you do the research too, because this is part of the learning experience, right? We're teachers. So there you go.
Great. Greetings, Andre. Nice to see you, sir. Eric's been going through the fundamentals video by Scott, and they are very informative. So ITF plus. I don't feel like a moron when he explains it. You should. Nobody here is a moron. Present company accepted. So yeah, I mean, Scott is, you know, just from his presentation here, he is a wonderful presenter. He doesn't talk down to anybody. He doesn't talk up to anybody. He is just like the rest of us and has a marvelous ability, like all good instructors, to take complicated technical topics and convert it into everyday experience that we can relate to. Yeah, I know. You're blushing. It's my job.
Hi.
Scott is also my boss.
True that. So Brendan S. has a question specifically for you.
Okay.
Can you run a Pi hole and a media server on the same Raspberry Pi 4?
I'm going to go with probably, Brendan. That question comes up all the time. Can you run this and this and that? And some of the things that are very closely related, the answer tends to be no. Pi hole itself is very low intensive. It doesn't use a lot of memory. It doesn't use a lot of storage. It doesn't use a lot of CPU horsepower. So from that perspective, there is certainly no problem. As far as any software conflicts, maybe. And I'm going to get into a little bit of that today. The question is, what kind of media server? If you're trying to run Pi-hole on Raspberry Pi OS, you will not be able to run Kodi on there. Kodi uses a different technology for its video system than Raspberry Pi OS does. And so they used to use the same, and that ship has sailed, unfortunately. So, but there are other media servers that don't have that same limitation. So we'll explore that. Good question. Hello, Elbow, guys. Yeah, sorry about the buffering. I hope, is that better? Somebody check in and let us know how that's looking to you guys. Lots of hellos. Simon Edling, good to see you. Marvin Jesus Warkeen. I've heard many Joaquins, but never a Warkeen. Peralta. Hello, Marvin. Forgive me if I just go by first name. I don't have enough breath to do all those names. Why did I just get cut off YouTube?
Right. So Armando
Okay,
Perez
good.
here. Salah Khan. Hey, good to see you.
Loving that, Brendan. Hello, Armando. So don't forget, while we're doing presentations today, pile those questions up. We want to hear, we want to take breaks from some of the stuff we're doing and do some questions. That's really, really fun for us. Echo, echo, echo. Hopefully that's solved. I got my mics turned off and down. We'll see.
Yeah, it seems to be, the sound seems fine to me at this point.
Okay.
So.
At some point I went in, I had my both speakers on. Kevin Lopez, why does the IT fundamentals test exist if A+ does more for you? Senior Scott.
I will take that one. So IT fundamentals, CompTIA, I was there at the beginning of the discussions really on well, initially Strata and then IT fundamentals and now ITF+, as they've morphed the name over the years. The concept was to provide a kind of baseline introduction to IT in a very broad sense so that people who were needing a certain level of just understanding of how modern systems work to be able to function in the modern society and whatever job they're doing would have that baseline knowledge. They made it inexpensive and fairly approachable. So not just for IT people, but for everybody to get a baseline area of knowledge. Plus, it serves as a way for people to get their feet wet, again, without investing too much in time and resources, money, in other words, to see whether they like IT. You might look at some of these Silicon Valley things and go, oh, that'd be great. They pay a ton of money. I should do that. And then get into it and go, I hate computers. This is an easy way for you to find out whether you like working on them, playing with them, exploring networking, and so on. So that's the purpose of IT Fundamentals Plus. It's not a job-oriented cert. So that's been the big knock against it since the beginning. But it does have a purpose, and that is to get people in the door.
Super, Scott, thanks. Thanks, Scott.
I
was reading my script. I wrote that word backwards. Scott, thanks. Because, you know, we have this all scripted line by line. We don't do anything without.
Oh, yeah, no, this is totally scripted.
Okay, and Andre is filling in some same things. Right, so there's actually very little crossover. There's some light teasing in ITF Plus that A+ picks up on and carries much further. But I never saw the products as having any kind of real crossover. It's not like we're talking about SQL servers in A+ or coding or anything like that,
Right.
or most apps.
So at 2:07, Elbow asked a question. Quick question, and now that we're into the feed, I'm going to start saying the time that people ask the question. So
it's a good thing. Me too.
So 2:07, quick question if you're not jumping into pies yet, and we're not. Is there an easy way to allocate more network bandwidth to a certain program, similar to task manager priority? Or is that only possible with QoS, or quality of service?
I don't know of anything within Windows that lets you prioritize network bandwidth on a per app basis. QoS is my only experience in dealing with that.
Yeah, I would agree. If somebody has any other insight into that and wants to post, that'd be great.
Please do.
Yeah.
I need a new t-shirt, huh, Elbow?
Lines are for crossing.
Nah, sorry. I don't make t-shirts. We had a guest expert on here one day. Mike had a guest expert, and it was a person in chat, and everything that person wrote was something that you could have put on a t-shirt and it would have gone viral. Some of it might have been interpreted a little bit racy, but it was never intended that way. Sort of like ram sticks.
Right.
Is that your line, Tullowit? I love the taste of ram sticks.
You know, my mind never went there until now. Thanks.
Yeah, me neither. Not till Tullowit said it. We can count on him for that. But as soon as it got verbalized, everything made sense.
I can never forget. Tullowit, I'm not answering that question.
Thank you. Good. I'm sliding past that one as well. Yeah, there is nothing, Tullowit, at 212 in my home except my wife that's totally stable.
Speaking of personal life.
Yeah. Okay, trimmers.
I'm not muted still.
Okay. Peralta, Tullowit. That was my question. This is very cool. And now I need to make a pie cluster just because. Yes, that is a solid reason to do that. Is that a Rush cup? A cup? No, the cup is not Rush. This is a local restaurant chain down here. I don't know if it's all of Texas or Houston area. It's a barbecue joint, Rudy's, and really good stuff for a chain.
So in case you don't know, barbecue is kind of like the national food of Texas. It's their barbecue joints on every corner, and in every small town, there's like the claim to fame is, oh, you've got to try the ribs in this tiny little town. And sure enough, when you drive through that town and you try the ribs, you're like, oh, wow. And it's different, right? All of the different barbecue things and sauces and spices, and they're all proprietary. And it's like, it's an acquired taste, but a taste it definitely is. So
yeah, once you acquire it, you'll never get rid of it.
Yep.
All right, very good, Marvin. Thank you. And it sounds like everybody's reporting everything is smooth and clear. So yep. Closing out of Zoom and joining again is the equivalent of rebooting your computer, right? Just cancel the connection and try and get a better one.
Yeah, that pretty much. And the
219 Elbow, we're just about the end. I read the first half of this and got terrified about the second half, but fortunately I was wrong. Elbow says, I liked computers and then I got ITF, and I was waiting to say, and then it was all.
Right. Now no. I hate them. Thank you, Scott.
Why did you ever introduce me to this? So good. Great. So yeah, ITF is a really cool thing. I got to teach a couple of weeks of ITF Train the Trainer at a school district not long before COVID shut down. And there's some folks who are real reticent to come. I know this stuff already. There are some folks who are real reticent to come. I don't want to know this stuff and I don't want to teach it. And then there were some real gurus who could have taught it better than I could have. But you always pick up something new and different perspective from a different instructor. And collectively, we all had one heck of a good learning and experience and a fun time. Yes, nice try. Thank you. We went to this concert in Houston last year. They made it through 7 songs, and then Roger Daltrey came down with a choking fit for pollen that he claimed, and they bagged the show and took off after 7 songs. And we got a rescheduled notice a couple of months later, and then a couple of months later, because of COVID, we got here's your money back. Thanks for trying. Many tastes. Yeah. Good.
So
If it
Dave, you
doesn't work,
should
try rebooting again.
before
That's on
we,
the script when you call
before
the
we finish
Middle
the
East,
questions
right?
out,
Say
before we
again?
finish the questions out, you should at least tell them the significance of the shirt you're wearing, because nobody
Oh,
wears red checks.
that's true. I didn't do that. Yeah, right. Well, this is a tablecloth, and my wife is experimenting with sewing. No, that's right. Not everybody knows. So I missed the Monday session this week because Sunday I took the kid back to school. He had transferred from Alabama and has now become a Texas Tech Red Raider. So of course we did the mom and dad thing while we were up there. We bought all the shirts and the decals and all of that happy junk. So it's a new button down for me to try. And he checks in every now and again. He doesn't say anything, but he does look in and see what dad's doing. And then scoffs at me mightily on a phone call afterward.
What a great guy.
I heard you screw up when you were talking over Scott.
Nice, Tello. It sounds like you've had as many jobs as Dave has. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Pit
Yeah,
master.
we should definitely hang one of these days if we get new to each other's town.
Absolutely.
Terrence Tech at bottom of the stack, 224, and then we'll get fired up after this.
Okay.
Sorry, I read ahead to Elbow's next line. Terrence Tech, can you recommend a good Bluetooth watch that will interact with all of your apps on your Android phone? I have an Android phone. I don't have an Android watch. I got my wife a phone that works with her Apple for her birthday last year, and now I have to get her a new birthday present because I thought it was a brand name and I got fooled into buying it, thinking it was a Fitbit, and it wasn't, and it survived for 3 months, something like that, just horribly. So no, I don't have a good recommendation.
And I don't. I'm all Apple.
Yeah,
all the time,
I think
so.
Mike and I are almost the only Android folks in the office.
Yeah, you could. Mike definitely is Android, and he has a big watch on his.
Yes, he does.
Ties into it, so he'd probably have some good insight into that.
Yeah, kick him off an email. Michael M at totalsim.com.
So Tomas is in the house. Excellent.
Yeah, hi guys. Okay,
Right.
well, I'm going to fire up on some material here. Where we at? We're about 27 minutes in.
Okay. And folks,
Yeah,
feel free to keep asking questions while Dave is talking.
What a high honor.
Jump in, and I'll be kind of monitoring the feed as well. So if you have specific timely questions, we'll jump back
to
227, but I'll be monitoring in real time. So ask away.
Great. All right, quick review where we've been. So as I said at the beginning, very happy to report that we have powered through the raw memorization stuff. We did all the Linux commands that you have to know for A+, and we did the very boring file structure for Linux, which you don't have to know for A+, but it's important to at least be exposed to it. It's going to make some more sense to you. And we always try to include in these presentations something to enhance the value of rote memorization. We know that we're all memorizing ports and protocols, and man, that's boring. So it, as Mike has said, and I say, and Scott says, and everybody who does this in the real world, the best way to learn ports and protocols and processes is to use them and then dig into them. So I try to dig into them every week by using something like Telnet or SSH or FTP and doing a WireShark capture on it and looking into the details that we have to know for the various CompTIA classes. So we've done that. We've explored aspects of encryption and security in SSH and compared that to unsecure systems in Telnet and looked at their port 22s and port 23s and 20s and 21s for FTP and so forth. Big surprise. I'm going to do that again today. We're going to mess around with a couple quick demos connecting to web servers that are secure and unsecure, and check it out with WireShark. So what we've done in the past and what we've done in the future. And why do we do it? Because it's more practical. It beats making flashcards, or it augments making flashcards. So that's the way to learn this stuff. Use it, experiment with it, and dig into it. So what we're going to do today, in a nutshell, I want to do a cleanup. There's one thing I didn't get to do last week. We're going to do a couple WireShark demos, and then we're going to do a WireShark installation on a Pi. And you can install WireShark very easily on a PC or on a Linux system. There's one kind of sort of minor difference when it's done on a Pi, and I'll show you that when we get there. Today's special topic, installing a media server. So this is going to be part one of a two-part installation. Today we'll install the media server. We'll do it on a Pi. Again, you could do it on any of 5 or 6 different platforms for the media server that I have in mind. And this isn't the only media server in town. Next week, we're going to add a Plex server to it. A Plex server is another media server. It's got 3 free features and 1 premium feature. I'll show you that as we go. But we're only going to use one aspect of it. It has the marvelous ability to store, manage, and recall and replay saved, fill in the blank, movies, shows, audio, whatever you got. And we'll integrate that Plex server into the media server that we're going to do today. So what are they? Let me do a quick summary on those. A media server is a program that reaches out onto the network, the internet, to find or help you find and present movies, videos, live audio, live video streams. It lets you save and play presentations. And there's a bunch of them out there. Plex is one. We're going to use the one known as Kodi, K-O-D-I, which used to be XBMC, Xbox Media Center. Hey, it says I'm supposed to show a slide in my notes, so I will, because I can. Share screen. This. No.
So while you're about to show
yeah, by all means.
Sergio Ortega asked at 229. Oh, actually, let's go with Tomas asking at 229 also. Can you recommend a good up-to-date book on WireShark? WireShark hasn't changed a lot in the past few years. So there's a good like WireShark 101 by Laura Chappell, Chappell. It was published in 2017, which is
she pronounces her name. Yeah, she pronounces her name Chapel, and she and I have been friends for close to 30 years.
Wow. Okay. So
yeah.
her view is called WireShark 101. Just search for it on Amazon. It's about 50, 60 bucks. And you can get it on Kindle too if you want to have an electronic version, but that would be a good one.
You know, I had forgotten about her. I haven't been in touch with her for a number of years. That's very exciting. And I have something cool and new to do now. I'm going to look up Laura. She was at Novell when I was.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
Yes. So here's a quick view of the main page of Kodi. So you can see along the left-hand side, we have the ability to select between movies or TV shows and radio and the weather. Oops, I slid that. And you can organize it, and there's all kinds of cool things. I'm going to show you the whole thing as we get toward the end of today, but that's the basic interface to Kodi. And what's really cool about this, there are 6, I think, platforms that Kodi runs on, and they look and act identical on all of them. So this might have been a screen cap from Windows. It might have been a screen cap from a Pi or a Mac OS. I don't know, and I don't care. So very, very inter-platformal. Is that a word?
It is now, Dave.
It is now, exactly where I'm going with. And that's so they wrote this program originally to run on the Microsoft Xbox, and then it got ported to other platforms. And as that port continued onto this platform and that platform and that platform, they said, you know, we want to kind of break our connection with Xbox. And so they renamed it Kodi. And myself included, lots of people ask and wonder where the Kodi name came from. So I looked that up this morning. Just, you know what, I thought that'll come up in today. And it's kind of a conglomeration of ideas. It doesn't stand for anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's not anybody's name. This was a group who said, let's come up with a new product name that's cool and it's short and it's not a mouthful and it's not going to legally step on anybody else's toes, or any of that nonsense. And then they started creating criteria for this. Like, wouldn't it be cool if once we had this name, we could logoize it? So perhaps it has a D in the name, and we could change that D into the play triangle, like playing a video player or something like that. And what was the other thing? Yeah, it's really true.
Wow.
Some other cool things like the cool features. So they made a big long list at all the folks in the company, and then they narrowed it down, and then they got with their legal department to check on legal toes. And oh, I know what the other thing was. It had to have the word code in it because they were all coders. So it's a conglomeration, it's a mashup, and it doesn't have any significance other than a bunch of folks got together and said, here's a good name, let's stick with it.
Very
so
cool.
I didn't take a screenshot of the Plex server. Plex server, more accurately called a Plex media server, technically a competitive offering to Kodi. I think as a competitive offering, Kodi offers more and more flexible services, except when it comes to storage and storage management. So if you go to, well, let's go check these out. I wrote down the website for both these for checkout. If you want to go do a little research on Kodi, it's kodi.tv, Kodi.tv. And Plex is, are you ready for this? Plex.tv. And on their main page, they show the 3 free services. They've got a video service with 80 plus channels of live TV, a repository of 14,000 on-demand movies and shows. And then fortunately in the free part, the ability to store and manage saved content. The premium version, you got to cough up a monthly fee for, is their live streaming audio content. So they got to pay royalties on that stuff. They're hosting it themselves. They're not drawing it out of someone else's repository.
So it's basically like internet radio.
Yes.
And of course they have to pay royalties because
I think it's probably, if you want to call internet radio Spotify or one of those offerings, I think it's a little closer to that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right. So that's what we're doing today. A couple of WireSharks, installing WireShark, and very cool, installing and operating a Kodi media server. Last week, about the last thing we did, or somewhere in the middle, and we didn't need to follow up on it, was we installed an Apache web server on a Pi. It's really simple to do. You can do it with Synoptic. You can do it from the command line simply by typing in sudo apt install Apache 2. Apache 2 is one word. And there's no configuration. There's no rebooting. When it says it's done, it's done. And then all you have to do is open up a browser and browse to the name of the Pi if you've got a functioning naming service running at your site, or the IP address. So we've done that. So what I want to do is I want to do a simple WireShark capture of connecting to that Apache server. So I'm going to start out on my machine. I got browsers open. I'm going to go start out over on a server that has, I don't want the drama one because that doesn't have WireShark on it yet. This one. All right, now we'll share that. Okay, so here's a Raspberry Pi. It's a Pi 3B probably. I don't even know. It's got an older version of Raspbian on it. That part's okay too. We're going to fire up. Well, I never remember where it is. Accessories. Where it is? Internet, WireShark. Take your time. So this machine has an Apache web server running in the background. You can't see it happening, but that's okay. We're going to go hit it after we start the capture process going. All right, I don't know if it's going to come through Wi-Fi or through the Ethernet LAN, so I'm going to say captured on anything. And somebody didn't point out about WireShark, and Mike always wants us to mention this, that you can set up WireShark so when it captures, it avoids capturing certain kinds of things. If I don't want to see the VNC traffic or whatever, we can tell it now, don't capture. Once it starts capturing, the filter is a visible filter. Everything is already captured, but we can say, I only want to see this much. So I'm going to capture everything. I'm going to hit the capture button here. And I'll stop sharing. And I'm going to open up a browser page. Here's one. Do that. Go over there. Share it. Oh, okay, cool. That's how that works. All right, so I got a Bear browser here. Cool people will recognize this is a Brave browser. And I'm just going to put in the IP address, 192.168.1. I think that's 112, but let me check my notes really quick here. Yeah, 112 and 137. 112 is the wired one. Enter. Okay, so there comes an Apache 2 default page. There's a little graphic in here, and there's some HTML coding to get stuff like this, but it's a pretty simple page. So good enough. Now I'm going to go back to WireShark. Stop capturing everything. Okay, there's the WireShark capture still going on. So we'll stop the capture. And what port is HTTP? No, you don't have to type it in, but you got to know that one for CompTIA for just about any of the three common trifecta tests. So it's TCP port space equals space 80. And there we go. We start with the TCP three-way handshake. Got a SYN, a SYN-ACK, and a SYN. It's normal for all TCP processes. We can see that this came from my machine, 1.117, to the Pi machine, 1.112, and it's completely open. It's not secure. So if I do a right click on one of these guys and I say follow TCP stream, eventually, oh, I picked too early in the stream. It showed only the early negotiation. Stand by. TCP port is 80. Okay, so here's where the HTTP stuff starts happening. You see this get command? That's an HTTP command. My machine is saying, get me the start of the web page. And then we'll see responses. So I'm going to go a little farther down here. Don't worry about that red line. Follow the stream. There we go. So that stream is the web page. This is probably the graphic that was in the upper left-hand corner, the Apache 2 graphic. And then we start getting into the text, some more graphical stuff and the red stuff. But anything that was textual on that page is not encrypted on here. So all this stuff we're seeing tends to be graphics. There's a call to another site at some point. There's a call to one of the images. Oh, in fact, it called for an image that didn't exist. That's where we got that 404 error. All right, you get the idea. It's a pretty simple process. And while it looked secure, just because there wasn't that much text to see. Now, what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to start another capture. And then I'm going to minimize that. Really, I am. I don't know if I can do that while I've got you. Get out of there. There should be some kind of traffic displaying. I'm going to cut that and do that again. Well, isn't that odd? Capturing from all sources, no display filters. That's weird. All right, well, I'm not going to bang on a death here. Let me try one thing just for hoots. I'm going to close this and reopen it. I did a control Q. Internet, I learned. Any, start up again. It sees traffic. We're capturing, okay, we're capturing again. I don't know what happened there, but we'll call it glitch. And now what I want to do is, I don't know, I'll skip that. We'll just do it this way. So now I'm going to open a browser on the Pi side because I don't have a secure server running on here. So there's a browser. So we'll make this the client and we'll call to some web server that's out in the wild. I think we're asking a lot of this old 3B. There we go. We got a browser now. I'm going to go to www. Wait a minute. That's not how you get to a secure server. You're supposed to go to HTTPS, right? Yeah, but the web server that I'm going to, and most of them have a redirector that says, hey, if somebody's trying to get here using an unsecure method, I'll redirect you to the secure website. I think we're taxing the CPU pretty hard. All right, so there's a web server that I know of that has, excuse me, that's secure. Hit the enter button. And waiting, please. So WireShark, you've seen we've had it. What do you mean site can't be? Oh, okay, the www. So there we go. The site is achieved. I'm a happy guy. We'll shrink that down. So in the past, we've used WireShark all the time on the server side to capture the traffic. Now we're doing it on the client side. It works the same way. It knows the source. It knows the destination. So let's stop this. And I hope you've been thinking about this. What's the port for a secure website, for secure HTML? Let's find out. TCP dot port equals not 80. I'm not hitting the enter key on that because I want to see a blank screen. It is 443, right? Hey, and there we go. Now it looks like there's some other activity that's been going on here. That's not just the one I did. And that's because the web server or the server here is always talking to all kinds of things. So I would like to see if I can find the synac. But it doesn't matter if I can or can't. What I've got here, ooh, wow, look at these. Destination IP6 addresses. I should specify IPv4, huh? But again, it doesn't matter what I want to do here. All I want to do is pick some nice 443 process that's not an application. Can I jump back to the top of here? No. That's the nature of the Pi. When it reaches out to the world, he tries to use an IPv6 address. So I'm going to start by looking at this packet. This frame number, that means just of all the frames that he's collected, it's the 2106th. IPv6. So there's all my source and destination IP processes. It's the layer 3 information. Did I just kill and close that? Of course I did. Get out of here. No, there we go. So close that. There's my layer 4 TCP, and here's where the magic happens. So the source port, somebody is generating a request. That's an ephemeral port from the Pi calling up the server, and the destination port on the server is 443. So we go and look at the next packet. This one, we'll see over here that 443 responded to port 53640. We're pretty good here. Here's the client key exchange, and we don't see Diffie-Hellman in here. This is a TLS exchange. That means instead of Diffie-Hellman, the server is using its certificate and sending us his public key from that. So I'm not going to tear this part into that kind of thing. All I wanted you to see is none of that stuff existed when we did our port 80 job. We know that secure servers are secure web servers use port 443. They may or may not use a Diffie-Hellman exchange, a TLS certificate exchange. They use the same TCP processes, SYN, SYNAC, ACK. And if we do a follow stream just for hoots, I'm not sure what's going to happen here. But I know that if it's port 443 anything, it's going to be encrypted. I saw a little bit of beginning text before the encryption process starts. There's some more. Hey, global sign is the root certificate authority for the certificate exchange. Isn't that cool? So what I want you to get out of this is there's a really practical value in having and using WireShark for troubleshooting. Why can't I get a secure connection? And of course, for learning this material. Let me quit out of that and unshare Uncle's screen. Okay. So a little web server lab. Oh, great. I'm going to install the a copy of WireShark on a different server between now and then. And we'll still have an hour to do Kodi. So I'm not going to run over today. I'm not going to miss anything.
Excellent.
If you want to take some questions while I do a little bit of prep here.
Secretly, I've been answering questions.
I saw some typing in the background.
So the big question that people are asking while you're, what is Proco Audio?
I wasn't going to do the big push. Yeah, right. So I don't feel bad about doing that here because there's almost nobody in Texas and certainly nobody in our neck of the woods, almost nobody in Houston. So that's my little side business website where we do rental of party equipment, dance lights, stages, instruments, junk like that. And I do mail order. So if you need to rent some really cool dance lights, check out the website. We'll send you something. And just for being here today, you get 50% off Total Tester standalone products. All right, let me open up our drama Raspberry Pi, SPBERRY. And then I'm going to share that.
Brendan, I'm using the Brave browser also. But it's
yeah,
just,
I think I thought Brandon is a fan of Brave. I believe you'd mentioned that before.
Brendan, yeah.
Brendan, yeah. All right, the first thing that I want to show you, I'm going to do this installation from the command line. I think you've got, yeah, I know you can see this. We've done this in this scale before. We have had an internal discussion here, and some of you have been involved in the external discussion on the usage of the cat command. And even with our own little total seminars, the holy wars have commenced that you find on the broad internet. Cat is useless, cat is useful. So I definitely fall on the side that says cat is useful, and I use it quite regularly. And I want to cat a file for you here. I'm going to say cat/etc/group. This is a file that has a list of all of the groups installed in the Pi by their name and membership in those things. Some of these I'm a member of. I'm a member of a group called Dial Out. There's me, Pi. And I'm a member of a group called CD-ROM. And even though my Raspberry Pi, not surprisingly, doesn't have a CD-ROM. As new groups get created, they wind up down here at the bottom. So the last group that I created in this system was a group called telnetd. And by magic, you can also see some semi-sequential numbers here, but by magic, because there's no names in there, in this instance, everybody is a member of telnetd. You can use any account to log into my telnet server. Okay. There's actually one a little bit farther down than that, but the way I've got the scaling on this thing makes it not necessarily visible. And I'm going to want you to see the bottom here in a bit. So let me bump this up a tad. There we go. Just for fun, see if I missed anything. No, telnetd was it. All right, so the installation of WireShark is dead simple. And it's just is what it is. This morning, to save time, so you wouldn't have to sit through a lot of boredom, I did a sudo apt-get update and a sudo apt-get upgrade, because otherwise we'd be sitting here for 20 minutes or so. And now all we got to do to get it installed is this. Let me bump over here so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. So I did a copy and paste on it. I copied it from my handy dandy notes. And remember, we can do sudo apt or sudo apt-get. They work almost identical. The install's not too long here, so I'm going to let you suffer and watch through it while we talk. You want to continue? Remember, if you get these, do you want to continues, yes or no, and one of them is capitalized, that's the default answer if you hit the enter key. So I could type in Y or N or simply enter, because yes is what I want, and that's what I did. And he goes, buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. And while he's doing that, let me tell you the little secret of the problem. When this is done, I don't need to reboot. I don't need any of that nonsense. It will work fine from the command line. It also installs an icon on the, I don't know what on the toolbar, there we go. But I don't know what Raspbian's official name for that thing is. But when you go and try and run it from there, and we'll demonstrate this, none of the interfaces will be available. It won't be able to capture for anything. And here's why. We have to create a group object for WireShark and give that group object permissions to run this thing, and then add members to that. And it's just some odd little quirk about this whole thing. And I may have to do a reboot between those two things. You won't have to be bored through it. We'll find something else to do while it reboots, and the reboot is really quick. But that's an odd little thing. Now, you could do all that happy junk manually if you knew how, or if there was some tutorial online that would tell you how to make a group if you didn't remember, and what rights to give it and all that stuff. But fortunately, built in with this package is a little command for you to run. They don't run it automatically in first because they're trying to make the configuration secure. Only such and such a person can run it, and it's got to be run from the command line. But they make this thing available so we can let anybody run it. That's not always a secure thing, but in a little setup like we have going on, not a big deal. I was hoping by the time I finished that sentence, it would say, and here we go, but it's not. All right, well, I'm going to close out of that and wait till it finishes and see what's cooking in other realms. Selecting.
This is where we're talking nonstop with snappy repartee. So it's not to lose the
Tulowitz involved.
Yeah, so the brave discussion is basically, what do you think? I'm like, it's excellent. It kills a lot of crap. And they're like, oh, that sounds good.
Perfect. So just as I got in there to read questions, it finished. So excellent. I'm going to go back in.
All right, here we go. We're going back in.
There. All right, so what have we done so far? Really simple. Sudo apt install WireShark.
That's pretty simple.
Much easier than that, right?
Right.
So I'm going to close this. Oh, let's see. Let's do a cat. Etsy group. And see if it got made. Now, I have installed WireShark on here in the past, and I have uninstalled. And so there was one thing that you didn't get to see happen. During the install, a menu pops up that says, do you want everyone to be able to use this or not? And if you say, let everyone use this, sorry about that. That one's not silenceable. Hey, I guess it was. Good. Because you pick one, it works the way I said. You pick the wrong one, it doesn't make the group. So this one automatically made the group. But let's say you blew it, you didn't get the message, you're not sure what happened. Here's what you would do. And I don't expect you to write this down, but for anybody following along this in the archive after the fact, there's a little command that you run from the command line, and it will make the group and assign all the rights. And you'll find it in all kinds of tutorials out there as well. And it's sudo dpackage reconfigure. And then here's the package configuration or menu that it runs, WireShark common. And here's the menu that you would see the very first time that you do a WireShark install on just about any machine. Saying yes lets non-supervisors run WireShark and capture packets. The default is no, and it's a confusing thing. It throws people a lot, and they'll pick no, and then they never get it working, but you fix it by running that depackage command I just ran, and you say yes. And you got to use a keyboard on here. It's not mouse functional. Okay, buzz, buzz, grind, grind. And if this weren't already there, you would see this WireShark X and a number. Okay, the group exists. Now I've got to make somebody be able to be a member of that group. And the syntax for that is sudo, and where would you go here? I slide it. This adds the WireShark group. There's the group. Okay, sudo add user. So I'm keeping this with the variable in it. That's not going to work, but I'll explain it. So I'll right click. Let me do this. Let me do a clear screen on here so it's up on top. All right, so here's the general syntax of the command to add a user to a group. We don't use $user, we just use the name of a user account. So I'm going to sudo add user pi followed by the name of the group, WireShark. Hit the enter key on here, adding pi to group WireShark. Let's do a cat etc group. And there we go. The WireShark group can execute whatever thing we're associated with, and pi is allowed to play with it. So I'm done. This may work without a reboot, and if it doesn't, I'll pop back and answer questions while I reboot. It's not in preferences. We do this all the time. Accessories.
Internet.
Thank you. Hey, look at that, just like before. I should have run WireShark before I did that ad and let you see the failure, but there is the failure. Okay, fantastic. So I got to reboot, and it's not because anything WireShark does, it's group membership doesn't work until or unless you log out and log back in. So changes to groups aren't real time. So you can see there's no ETH0 or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or anything here. And this is a subject of a million different questions and posts on WireShark forums. So I'm going to close this thing, Control Q. And let me try log out and log back in without doing a reboot.
While you're doing that,
yeah.
Dave, Tomas has a question directly about what you just did.
Okay.
What was the reason to add WireShark to the group, or add pi to the group?
Very good. So the way the WireShark installation works is to allow someone with supervisory powers to be able to run it from command line. It's a security feature. We don't want other people to use it, and we don't want to make it easy and evident to them in the GUI. But in our configuration, we say, I want anybody who comes to this system to be able to use it. And so I'll make a WireShark group. I will give it permission to run the WireShark program, excuse me, and then we'll add members to that. All right, so I've logged out. Let's log back in. And it's reading all the background stuff and hopefully checking the list of groups and saying, oh, Dave is a member, or Pi is a member of the WireShark group. By the way, if you enable SSH on a Raspberry Pi server and you don't change the default password for Pi, this message comes up every time you boot up. Hey, you're doing something dumb, unsafe. I know, but I want everybody to be able to see and know the account that I'm using, so I'll live with the error message. Okay, crossing fingers that I don't have to do a reboot. Hey, there we go. So all I had to do is have that group, give it permission. Now I could do this individually too. I could take a user account and give it specific permission to run this thing, but I would have to do that for every user account in the system. So now you just run it like anything else. Pick which interface you want to capture traffic from. You can see I got different traffic on my wired Ethernet than I have on my wireless one. Don't have anything real going on Bluetooth. So I'll just start a generic capture here. And it's capturing everything. See if I can zoom that out a little bit. There we go. And since this screen has a lot higher resolution than that other one I was using, I can get the full breadth and the 3 panes of information simultaneously.
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
I mean, I can change the font on it. We should have done this before, huh? Zoom. Zoom in, Control++. Is that making the font bigger or is it just zooming in?
It's making it bigger.
Okay. Cool. So we got it.
That's much better. Okay. Thank you.
Sure thing. And besides Laura's book, if you want to learn how to use WireShark, there are tons of books out there. Somebody mentioned the other day, there's some real sales going on Udemy right now. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens, perhaps hundreds of how to use WireShark classes on there. And I think they're going pretty dog cheap right now. Hey, I only want to see the VNC traffic. I just type in VNC, enter. And once we get this filtered out, that's all I can see here. All the other background junk, but I'm not going to do a WireShark class. So, all right. So we are fully caught up. Everything we needed to do in all the last couple of weeks. I'm thrilled with that. And let me come out of here and join you and talk for a few minutes. Hey, hi, everybody. Let's close this. You can't see what I'm closing, but it cleans up my screen mightily. Yeah, okay. So my handy dandy little outline says, take questions and prompt for questions and things you would like to try. Let me mention that. So if there is something that you want me to do here in the future, or maybe you want to do with me as you chat in, send me some emails, post some ideas here. I'll fire them up. I'm going back and look at a couple of these questions that Scott hasn't answered. Looks like he's nailed everything.
So
you're a busy guy.
I went all the way back to 229.
Okay.
Sergio Ortega. Other people have answered him, but I figured we might as well jump in.
All right.
He says, hi there. How important would you say having a standalone firewall is for a home network? I have the Netgear Nighthawk and the full suite of Norton on both PCs, and I don't host any servers.
Why don't you start that one?
I think
You're a firewall guy these days.
I think Tullo would answered a couple minutes later, and I think that was a tight answer, very much so. A standalone firewall is like an appliance of some sort.
Right, like Sonic Wall.
Yeah, it's way overkill for a home network. But
absolutely.
But if you've got
how important is it? Not very.
Yeah.
Microsoft's got a huge. Sorry, go ahead.
If you got the money to burn and you want to play with it, right? I mean, if you're working at becoming a network administrator, then that might be a fun thing to do. But again, it's not necessary by any means.
Yeah. So keep in mind, if you have an appliance-based firewall that you truly want to be an effective firewall, first of all, there's no small cost to actual purchase it. And then you have to purchase a license for it that's annual, and that's not cheap. But the value of it is it phones home every day and gets updates, not just on viri, but on things that try to attack through firewalls. So, in an environment that's a tasty treat, that's a tasty threat, there's some value there. But most of our home stuff, we just don't fit that mold.
Right.
We use Kodi here every day. Excellent LBOE, so do we. That's I cut cord, God, well over 15 years ago, maybe much farther back than that. I wasn't using Kodi then. I would just kind of surf the net and look for something I wanted to watch or see or play DVDs. But ever since Kodi came out, and I installed it on my Raspberry Pi 1, I brought that out today just for hoots with his 2 USB ports and his slow RJ45 and his single core processor and his 512K of RAM, 512 meg.
And we were happy to have it.
And we were happy to have it. And I'll tell you what, Kodi sucked on there. It was really disappointing.
Yes, it was. So Terrence Tech at 237 asked us if we played Jackbox on Steam.
I have not.
I have not either, but I'll write it down and look at it.
Yeah.
If you think it's
I have played with a Jack in the Box. It's got the little crank on the side.
Yeah, but that's when we were kids.
I was doing it this morning. Was Plex in trouble for pirated content? I don't know.
I don't know.
But if they were, they seem to have gotten out of it because they're still functional.
Yep.
Is there an x86 emulator for the Pi to try Windows design software? Yes. And it's not just for the Pi, runs on other versions, but yeah, it's QEMU, QEMU. I never know how to pronounce it. I have not used it. I've seen it used, but I've never installed one or configured it. So that sounds like a fun project to explore. I'm going to make handy dandy notes on that. WireShark allowed that. Yep. So yeah, it's really, WireShark is just, for all of you pursuing an IT career, especially as you go down the networking road and then further down into the Security Plus road, get to know WireShark. In fact, I wrote a couple of paragraphs in my notes here that says, why WireShark? And I got a list of about 10 reasons, but one of them is, it is decidedly something to put on your resume as a skill.
Yep.
Now, I just started to learn it, and maybe not, but that's what I want you to do. I want you to get this installed on some machine, put it on a Windows machine, put it on a Pi machine, put it on a Mac, put it on whatever you've got, and play with it a little bit every day. Learn one new filter, learn one new protocol, and find ways to generate it and experiment. And by the way, at the WireShark website, they have capture files of all kinds of different and cool things, and they're free to download, so you can download them and play them back or load them into WireShark and check them out. There's really neat things there. Some of them are almost self-contained lessons. So get good at WireShark.
Absolutely. I will second that with absolute enthusiasm. WireShark is an awesome tool.
At 241, Transplant Health checked in, nice. And Transplant, I got your email not long before we started the show today. Went and checked it out. Some of the stuff has been around for a couple of years and I was aware of it. And one or two things was brand spanking. So I appreciate that. I'm going to look a little more deeply into that and see if I can integrate some of that new stuff into an AMA in the next week or so, 2 weeks.
Sounds great.
Elbow, I've been thinking about starting a conspiracy. Stop there, my friend. I think by definition, you have just introduced an illegality.
most of the questions that came through that were banter, or we've talked about them already, about Brave, and there was one.
I went through that question. I believe Microsoft has created a system to detect how many people are in the room with you. It will then seamlessly switch over the entire code. Yeah. Good. Everybody's throwing in right answers. I see port 80s and port 443s. That was 25 minutes ago, huh?
Yep.
What's Proco?
They were right on. I mean, as soon as the word, like, what port uses, and they're like 80.
It was a mic contest, huh? 400 That's lines, right. and Scott poked in 42, I would bet.
No, I think I was laughing at the Sergio going, why do people in Texas and Oklahoma like Big Red?
Nice.
And I think we can all agree that we don't know.
I see some disconnected stuff that I can go far back. I have Udemy open right now and didn't know there was a sale. Yeah, who was Brendan pointed that out last week? Might have been Falak. I don't remember, but I was pointed out that it was just a couple more days left in it. So
right.
Now, they do this all the time. I didn't admit that, and don't tell our salespeople that we suggested to you. But
I mean, the video content is the same as you can get from us. The questions are a very tiny subset of our total tester product. So if getting the total tester on sale would probably be a logical thing to do if you can. But yeah, jumping on the Udemy classes, even taking ones, getting ones that you're not yet ready to study for. Yeah.
Right, buy them now. You've got them for life.
Yep, Tomas just did that. He's studying for A+ and bought the Network Plus on sale this week. So, because you know you're going to take the next step, you might as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. What's this? Tomas is wondering who plays WoW and had a screenshot of the fight in the A+ book. Scott, let me turn that one over to you.
Yeah. So there are a couple of WoW screenshots in A+. One is Mike Myers' character Palape, who he played for a solid decade. We played from vanilla on through, oh my gosh, 5 or 6, 7 updates with new content before we finally just like go, okay, I've spent enough of my life playing this one and stepped away. Legion was where we stopped. So there's a big screenshot of the fight scene with Palape kind of waving in the middle. That's Mike's character. Later on, there's a screenshot of a naked character talking about security and getting robbed because I didn't do good passwords and stuff. That's my character, who really did wake up naked in the dirt. Bank account completely cleared out. This is before we had two-factor authentication, and his name was Sarion. So there you go.
And that's happened to you with your Civ character many times in the early days, as I recall. Not Civ, Conan.
Yeah, the Conan Exiles. That's the nature of the game.
Yeah.
Like you're playing a PvP survival game. You don't log out properly, and you wake up in pink clothing, or I mean, that's if you're lucky. Otherwise, you just log in with nothing. So.
Very cool.
Oh, I did go mental, Tomas. I had to like rebuild everything. It was sad. I learned
and
my
there
lesson.
are other courses, books, and videos where we use other games that various people in the office are playing. Ford and I were playing. I think we were playing Pong. Actually, we were doing some kind of video 2 years ago, and that got absorbed into I think the Sims promotional video or something like that. There's always something going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we all game.
Yep.
Well, the CEO Dudley does not. That's not true. He plays Age of Empires.
Yeah.
But he's not a tech. So
we have a person, maybe you found out about this or know this already, and maybe not. But one of the people in the production environment has a side gig. She takes raw video of people gaming and edits them together for presentation. And
that would be Dana. Yeah.
That would be Dana. Yeah, I thought that was really cool when I learned about that. It was just a couple of weeks ago I learned that. So good for her. All right. Well, we're caught up on questions. Let me highlight this. We finished at 3:16 for me.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to talk about the installation of Kodi on a Pi. And I'll show you a couple of other things. And first of all, let me do a little bit of fessing up. It's not something that I've caused or did wrong, but when I was prepping for this thing, I had kind of a head slap moment. And that's this. When they wrote Kodi, when they ported it to run on the Pi, the video system on the Pi was a very common Linux video system called X Windows. And so it was ported to run on X Windows. It has nothing to do with Microsoft Windows, but it's a way that windowing happens and all the code in the background to make that happen. So cool. Kodi works fine on that. And then the operating system went through a major change and they killed support for X Windows and used a different technology. I'm not going to get into it in this, maybe another day when we get real deep in the rabbit hole of Linux functionality. But they never reported Kodi for Pi to deal with the different windowing system. So still runs X Windows. And what that means for us is I could change to X Windows in a Pi. It's a pain in the butt, but it's not impossible. It can be done in under an hour, lots of little gobbly-gobbly changes. But what they did instead, they said, let's create a Raspberry Pi OS that accomplishes two goals. One, it still runs X Windows, so we're going to optimize it in that respect to run Kodi. And second of all, we're going to make this so optimized to run Kodi that we're not going to treat it like a general Linux operating system. We're going to strip out all the ooey goodness that makes general Linux cool and multifunctional and so forth. And we're going to build an operating system that's all about supporting Kodi. So it's small, it's fast, it's light, and it's X Windows. Cool, that's an excellent thing. I support that. What that means to us, however, is the ooey goodness that I use to share screen information with you. It's a real VNC server. It doesn't support X Windows. It supports the new windowing system. So I can't remote onto an X Windows installation on a Pi and show it to you there. And likewise, I can't show you an installation because even if it wasn't X Windows, it was something else, the VNC server doesn't up and run until the installation is complete. So I got two solutions. We'll call them workarounds. Yes, sir.
What are you going to do, Dave?
I'm glad you asked that question. I hadn't thought that anybody would. So I'm going to walk you through it. Procedurally, it's very simple. And in fact, if you watch episode 1 that we did back on July 31st, I walked everybody through step by step how to do a Raspbian installation. You would simply make one small change to that. Instead of picking Raspberry Pi OS, you're going to pick one of two operating systems that are selectable that are optimized to do this. I'll show you that in a second. And I'm going to go through the steps very quickly right here and right now. So pick a Pi. Now I'm going to run one. I am running one on a Raspberry Pi 3B. It's a good choice. It's not the best choice. The best choice is the newest, bestest one, a Raspberry Pi 4B Plus, and the more memory, the better, but it works fine on the 1 gig models. The one I've got running in my living room is a 2 gig model, and there is a benefit in running a Pi 4 over all the other ones now, and it's not just the memory, it's the fact that the Raspberry Pi 4s have a pair of HDMI outputs, and I can take advantage of dual screen, but we won't need to do that today. So this will be done as described on a 3B. The process of installation is identical on a 4. There's 2 ways to do the install, the easy way and the not quite as easy way. So step by step, I'm just going to list these off for you. Step 1, go to raspberrypi.org/downloads and download Noobs. Remember, Noobs is an installer. It's not an operating system. And what Noobs does is has a full copy of Raspberry Pi OS in the download. And then there's a list of other operating systems that can be installed. And you would select one of them. And he says, well, I'm not on the card. So it will phone home and pull in the operating system in question and install it on the card while the card is in the Pi. But we're going to presume from Noobs here.
So Dave.
So when you go ahead, Scott.
So that's raspberrypi.org/downloads.
Correct, plural.
Plural.
Yep.
And what's how do you spell Noobs?
You got to scroll down a little ways, about 3/4 way down the screen to see the list. Oh, wait a minute. No, Noobs and Noobs Lite are near the top.
How do you spell Noobs?
Noobs, new out-of-box software.
Okay. I just typed in the live stream, that's all.
That's cool. Okay, so when you download Noobs, it's a zip file. Unzip that and save all the contents to a folder. There'll be subfolders and things like that. Done. Next, get a micro SD card. I have a full-size SD card here. I'm faking it. But micro SD card, minimum 16 gigs. And this is one of those situations, the bigger the better. A Pi 4 will run a either 128 gig max or even 256. I'm not certain now. But I wouldn't play around with a real Kodi installation on a card smaller than 64. You can do it on less than, but that's my personal preference.
Okay, good to know.
Then we need a formatter just to clean up whatever's on here, even the stuff from the factory. So you go to sdcard.org. They've got a downloads link and a formatter link underneath that. So you download, it's called SD card formatter, and install it. And then all you have to do is get these things together, take your micro SD card, slot it into a native slot if your computer's got one, or plug it into a dongle. If we've got one, I got a better dongle I started using a little while ago. But they're all the same. There we go. And plug it in, and you run the SD card formatter program. There's not many options on it. I think I got a picture of one here running, because I do. All right, so that's what the SD card formatter program looks like when it's running. You'll pull down here a list of removable media. It won't show your C drive or your optical media. It'll show anything that you've got that's removable, like a flash drive or a thumb drive. If you got more than one thing plugged in, of course, be careful, select the right thing. And then a quick format is completely fine. The older version of this thing used to have some options that you got to select, but everybody always used the same options, so they pulled that out. So pick a quick format, and then hit the format button, and it goes buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. And in about 30 to 60 seconds, it's done.
Dave?
Hi there.
What file format is used?
It's actually FAT32.
FAT32, okay.
Yep, and it'll go FAT64 if you go greater than 32 gigs.
Okay.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And then what'll happen is during the install later, it'll change the format.
Ah, okay.
To ext4. All right, back to notes. All right, so let's simplify it. We've downloaded Noobs and unzipped it. We've prepped a micro SD card, FAT32. Guess what happens next? You take the unzipped files and copy them over to the micro SD card. You don't put in any subdirectories. Any subdirectories that are there, they come over, but don't move them any lower than the root directory. And it's done. Really, it is. Oh, there it is. Okay. So once you've got the card done, now you're ready to do some Pi action. I got an old Pi here just to fake it with my full-size card. So you take that card, you pop it into the slot. If it's a micro SD card, there'll be a smaller slot, but it's in the same location. And then plug everything in. Since we can't do it remote or with secure shell or anything like that, you're gonna need for the installation a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse. And I would encourage you, for the use of Kodi, to use a wired Ethernet card if it's available, an Ethernet cable. And if not, obviously you're going to go Wi-Fi. And even if you have a wired Ethernet card, we're going to configure Wi-Fi as a backup, and I'll show you where and how to do that. I got a little screenshot. So once all the peripherals are plugged in and you're ready to rock, plug in the power. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to show you one of these. Power usually comes from your basic USB wall wart. So I got a wall wart plugged in. I plug this into the wall wart, just like any other USB. And here's another female USB connector. So for that, I'm going to take my cable that I use to charge my phone or power my PC, just a handy dandy little blue cable here. So wall wart, this thing, what I want to talk about, and then a little bit of extension, and we plug this into the power jack of the Pi. Hey, here's a Pi. It's an old one. Power jack is on the back. And what you do once you eventually get this plugged in, that looks like a C. Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay. Is this little guy is an on-off switch. So no power. By the way, you want to label these. They're never labeled. But I've got this set to off right now. So now when I'm ready to power up the Pi, I hit the switch. When I want to power down the Pi, I do it by command. And then when it's powered down, I turn that back off. And that saves wear and tear on the micro C or USB-C power connector. I don't have to pull this in and out all the time. I can just turn it on when I want. Cool, eh?
Very cool.
We throw that on the floor.
A couple of questions that came through about what you're ask what you're doing specifically.
Right?
Marvin asks, or Marvin asks, would Rufus work for this initial install?
No, because the noobs files are an image.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
They are not an image. They are regular, boring old, non-image, non-compressed, non-nothing files.
Okay.
So no, we don't use Rufus. We do have, I'm going to show you in method number 2, an equivalent to Rufus for this. We're going to use either Balena Etcher or Balena Etcher, some people pronounce it,
okay,
or Win32SD Writer. That's not the correct name, but I'll get it when I get to that point. But no, not Rufus.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. So that's it. I've got the card in the beast. I hit the power, and now we're on autopilot. It's going to boot up into the noobs interface. Let me show you that. That's the Rufus equivalent that we're going to use in another method. I'll come back to that guy. All right, so this is what the boot up screen looks like when you booted noobs. So let's ignore this stuff for the minute. The first thing that you want to do, whether or not you're using wired Ethernet, is go up here and click on Wi-Fi networks. And that's where you're going to pre-configure your wireless configuration. So even if you didn't have a wired connection at the house or wherever you're doing this, by pre-setting up Wi-Fi, you can use that to do an online installation, one that's got to pull down the support files. And when the installation is complete, whichever kind of installation we pick from this menu, Wi-Fi will be pre-configured. The next thing to do is to head down here at the bottom of the page and configure your language and keyboard. If you pick US, English US, it will automatically set the keyboard to a US keyboard. I don't know what selecting other countries will. I know that if you leave this at English UK, the installation will presume you've got an English language, and it will spell color with a U for some weird reason, and use an English keyboard, as in from England. Okay, so set up your Wi-Fi, pick your language and keyboard, and now what you're going to do is select your choice. The preferred is LibreElec. Don't matter about this RPi 2. Or you can pick OSMC, Open Source Media Center. Both of these are operating systems with a pre-configured, baked-in media center. LibreElec has built-in Kodi, and OSMC, I think, does as well. I think they had a different one in the past. Kodi is open source. So we click that guy, and then you go up and click install. Hang around for a couple of minutes. 1 or 2 questions might get posed to you. What do you want the default account to be? And you can just leave it at the same. And do you want to call this thing Raspberry Pi LibreElec, or give it something else that's a little more personal to you? And let it buzz and grind its way through. Now, because this is noobs, remember, the only actual full copy of an operating system in the noobs installation is Raspbian. So I don't need a network connection to do a Raspbian or Raspberry Pi OS installation, but every other one of these guys that we pick from, he's got to call out to home at raspberrypi.org or one of their mirror sites and pull down that operating system over the network to do the installation. So that's a long install. Set it up, walk away, come back in a couple hours. And once it's complete, reboot it. You're done. It's installed. It probably doesn't need to be rebooted, but can't wait. And so that's where I'm going to pick it up with my little fake. Since I can't show you any of that stuff here because we can't remote to it, we're just going to have to pretend it happened. Oh, that's not done with, there is the one other thing that I wanted to show you. Notes tell you. So that's method number 1. Method number 2, let me take it to a website. Scott's posted it. We'll go here, we'll go here. I'm going to open the page and then I'll share it with you. Sorry about that. It itched. Okay, click this so I can get back to you.
The sound.
Share. I don't love Zoom.
You
I
don't
like
love
it. I do like it, but I don't love it.
it?
Okay, so here is the page that Scott told you or typed in earlier, and I mentioned this is raspberrypi.org whack downloads. And this is where you would get noobs. If you pick on this, select on this, it's going to go to another page that has full noobs and noobs light. We're using full noobs because it doesn't matter, especially if you're going to use a large micro SD card. But if you scroll down here a little further, you can download in advance LibreElec. So you download that to your workstation. It's an image file. If your machine was an ARM machine, you could use that to create a virtual machine. But your machine isn't an ARM machine. So all we got to do is download and install either Win32. Let me change share screens. Hey, this is new. I'm going to try something new. Instead of unshare and then do a fresh share, I'm going to try and, you can't. You have to stop sharing first. Hey, learning experience.
Right, right.
We try things.
Nothing like trying something live.
All right, so you can download, just do a Google search on this, Win32 Disk Imager or Balena, B-A-L-E-N-A, Balena, Etcher, E-T-C-H-E-R. There's a Windows version of it. And you get a nice micro SD card. You don't have to format it because it's going to do a block by block overwrite of everything that's on that card. So you browse for the OpenElec ISO file that you just downloaded. You select from here the micro SD card that you've got plugged into your computer, and you tell it to write. You're going to write the file to the card. If you ever want to back up a card, you can use this utility to create a file, an image file of everything that's on the card to a file in your machine. I used to do that a lot, and then I found out so many updates happened by the time I ever wanted to use one of the old images. They were out of date and it was a pain, so I don't do it anymore. But there may be some validity to that, especially if you're going to use this. I just did a fresh install and I want to clone this thing. Cool. I'll copy this to a file on my machine, and then as I work through the afternoon, I'll just keep popping in replacement cards and writing to them. So there's a nice valid way to go. So if you use that method, I download the image, I copy it to the card, you plug the card in. There's a couple things that you would have to do that you did in advance for a noobs install. You've got to set up your Wi-Fi, you've got to pick your language and time zone and all that stuff, but it's all of 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and you're running. Rufus doesn't work to do it. You need one of the two utilities I showed you here. Cool. All right, let's take a quick look at questions, and then I'm going to show you Kodi in action. That doesn't take long, a couple of minutes, and then we'll get ready to start winding things up. Oh, goodness. So I finished at 319. I'm sure you've got a lot going since then. How large is the Raspberry Pi OS? It's about 4 gigs for basic Raspberry Pi OS. That's why they recommend a minimum of an 8 gig card, because you're going to have the original somewhat compressed version on here, and then you're going to have an expanded version of it. So there's 4 and 4, there's 8. Now you need another 8 to play with. I don't know the size of the other ones that may have been documented on the noobs screen. More RAM is always better.
Yeah, a lot of these are me.
Yeah,
ask you the questions in line.
It's cool. In what scenario is this Raspberry Pi better than a simple notebook? It's this big. It costs $35. There are cons. If you want to hold up a laptop next to this thing, this runs Windows. There's a lot more software for it. It's a lot shinier and easier for people who don't want to get into the techno depths of this. So this is wild, wild west, maybe a little late 1800s now, a lot less wild than it was 9 or 10 years ago when we started this game. 2012 was when I got the first one. So it's 8 years old. So it's cool. It's a neat learning toy. It's a neat toy. And it's a heck of a lot cheaper and smaller than a laptop and a notebook, but it isn't as good. Could you replace this with your desktop for your daily driver? Lots of people try it. Many are successful if they're willing to live in a more limited world than Windows would allow you to live into. But no, for day-to-day kinds of things that all of us people in professional worlds and have to run Microsoft Office and all that stuff, people are trying to run Zoom sessions on here, and there's a bunch of crazy workarounds, but it's not natively supported here. So you got to accept some limitations if you want to play in this arena. I have Raspberry running in VirtualBox. So what you have, Andre, is Ubuntu running in VirtualBox with a Raspbian interface. They've recreated the interface in there so it looks and acts very similar, but the core of that thing is x86 Ubuntu, and it's cool. Yes, you can try most things out because most of the things that are in the Raspberry Pi repositories are also available in the Ubuntu repositories. Passing 338, which means we got to get pretty darn close here. Solowitz talking to Scott. Terrence Tech, Sec Plus question. Can Pi used be for war driving? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would agree.
and another good reason to use it instead of a laptop. It's a lot less obtrusive. We pop it in our pocket and we hold our little Pringle can antenna out here, and people think you're eating Pringles. You'll need a battery. Yes, certainly, Terrence Tech, for pen test. There is a version, there are several versions of Kodi available. I'm sorry, of
Kali,
Kodi, Kitty, Kodi. Dave, just ordered my Raspberry 4 gig with 32 gig. Great news on Amazon. I used my Amex points and it was free for the win.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing what you do. I asked something similar a few weeks ago about using Pi for war droning. I know what war driving is. I know what war chalking is. War droning must be using a drone. Right. Yeah, that would work. Sure. I never heard of that. That's cool. Dr. Quinn, hi there. I think Magic Jack device is actually a Pi. It's not a Pi because it came out before the Pi, but yeah, so I was going to mention that. That's one of the really cool things you can do with Kodi, and it's been ported to so many platforms, available on Android. I'm not sure that it's the one runs on a Fire Stick, but I'll bet you the core code is there because it's open source, and there are certainly Kodis that are self-contained. Nice. On flash drives. Magic Jack. Man, I haven't heard that in a long time, and I'm sorry that I heard it today. Cool. All right. So let's take a look at Kodi. This is what you're going to see. Oh, there was one kind of note. I've been sliding my notes really fast here. Good Lord. I don't need that open. And I don't think I need that open anymore, but I'll leave it just in case. All right, there's my mea culpa, so that's where I want to go. Okay. Kodi re-releases about every year, sometimes every year and a half. And the current release is version 18, and you know how Linux names itself after characters from, not Buzz Lightyear, Cars. I'm wrong on the title on that, but it's got Buster in there and Stretch and all those folks. Or maybe it is Buzz Lightyear. Well, Kodi names its releases based on Star Wars characters' names. So current active release is version 18 Leia. And I don't know the name of the new one for version 19. 18 is no longer being developed. 19 is under development. So we're going to hold static on 18 for a little while until they pop out version 19. And here's why we care about this. They come out with a version, Leia. Everybody who develops an add-on for it, video add-ons, movie add-ons, menus, whatever, it has to be ported to work with Leia. So when 19 comes out, some of them will still work, but many won't. So you're going to have to upgrade your add-ons every time you, upgrade Kodi.
Okay, that would be a good reason to know.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that we had so much trouble with yours and my early system. I worked fairly diligently in keeping my repositories updated, and yours got so far out of date by the time we started playing with it, it wasn't worth continuing.
Gotcha.
If you go to, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I want you to know about this. We've got 15 minutes. We're still cool. It's only going to take about 6 minutes to do what I got left. If you go to Kodi.tv and then the download folder in there, there is installers for, here's the list that it's currently supported on: Windows, generic Linux, Mac OS, Android, Raspberry Pi, and iOS. And whenever, as I said, whenever you install one of these guys, it looks and works exactly the same. So once you know one system, you know another. So I'm gonna fire up Kodi here, and we're gonna do a very quick tour of it. Kodi, I'm gonna do it on Windows. But if I didn't admit that, you wouldn't know. You'd think I was doing a remote to a Pi. Yes, you're welcome for being honest. So you know I lie about everything else. All right, so I launched Kodi. This is what the primary screen looks like with a fresh installation. There's nothing in here. If I go click down the left pane, there's no movies, but I can add some. And sometimes it's not very friendly about using the mouse. There's no native way to get back over to the main menu from here. I'm clicking there, I'm clicking over here. So it's very keyboard friendly. It's not super mouse friendly. I use the backspace there. If I go look at the area that I hang around, mostly videos, I can click on videos and get this vertical list, and you can change these list orders, or I can just hover over videos and go over to video add-ons. And video add-ons include live channels and movies and all kinds of other goodies. So how do we get that stuff? We go up here to the settings gear. And I'm going to do one. I'm going to show you 3 things in here, and then I'm going to do one installation of one. So system information, there's nothing that you can change in here. It just tells you what's going on. So I got 3.5 gigs of free RAM in this machine, and I'm using a virtual machine in here right now. It virtualizes, and you get the idea. I'm not going to read all that to you. My network information tells me what kind of video system I'm running, and a little bit about the hardware in here. So obviously Pi is going to look a little different than that. Backspace. This is one of the areas you want to spend your time in first, the system. This is the general system configuration. And the first thing to do when you go in here, you will see that it's set to basic. So go and change it to either standard or advanced. I prefer advanced. And now every one of these things, if you have a 2-monitor system, you'll be able to select between monitor 1 and monitor 2 or defaults. You can make it full screen or windowed. I made this one windowed so I can see the rest of my computer. But when I'm watching something for real, it's full screen. You get the idea. So there's all kinds of settings and things to play around with here. I would leave that power saving stuff off. If you're watching something on monitor number 2 and working on number 1 and a movie ends, your system will shut down after X amount of time if you don't have these turned off. Add-ons is what I really want to talk about here. We don't have any add-ons yet, but notice that it says if you have any add-ons, when they update, install updates automatically. That's a good thing to do. You probably want to get notified when that happens, but you don't have to. And every one of these screens has a restore your stuff to default. So if you think you screwed something up, you can go back and reset it. Okay, backspace. So add-ons is what it's all about. The usual simple method is to install from a repository. These are repositories of content that are maintained by the Kodi folks. And there is add-ons for every one of those left pane choices and lots more. So I'm going to go down to video add-ons. And some of these are repositories with multiple things that you can watch in them or programs in them or audio or whatever. And some of them are just singular. So I'm going to pick one that oh, hey, look at this. We do this sometime. We watch the Bob Ross channel sometimes in the evening. And that is just so soothing. And you notice as I highlight over any of these, on the left-hand side, we get a little image and a descriptor. I saw one that rolled by right now. I haven't tested this, but I'm gonna take a chance. By the way, cheddar is really cool. I like that one. I lost it just as well. Charge, cheddar, classic, comedy central. By the way, no guarantee that these are gonna work. I'm gonna do Comet. So I picked a repository. I go down here, I pick install. And there's a couple of versions of Comet that somebody's stuck out there or some buddies have put there. I don't know which one's good or not. I've used stuff from Tim's library routines. So I'm gonna highlight that and install it and okay it. Oh, add-on installed. Okay, all done. Still doing more. So I'm going back to the main menu now using my backspace. I'm going to go into videos and look at my video add-ons. And there's Comet. I have not tested this live over Zoom. I have no idea what's going to happen. But if I were watching this on an HDMI monitor, I do know what would happen. I'd be watching Comet TV. But you get the idea. Didn't happen. Sorry about that. I'm not going to, yeah, I got 2 minutes. I'll try one more. I got plenty of time. So it only takes 2 minutes to do one of these. Add-ons, install from repository. See this install from a zip? This is when you want to install from a non-Kodi repository. You're gonna have to find them online and they will give you step-by-step instructions. And I will tell you the one that I use regularly, and that's called Nemesis. So if you just Google Kodi Nemesis, you'll find where to download that from and instructions and all of that good stuff. I'm going to do the one that I have tested. Also from Tim, install. It says installed. The T1 TM library routines are already installed. Now, there we go. Downloading. This is one of those downloads that says 30% and then it says, I'm done. Back to the main menu. Down to videos, over to video add-ons, crossing fingers. Okay, so here's MeTV. Web exclusive, I haven't even looked at that. Let's watch I Love Lucy. At least some I Love Lucy episodes. They've got a live version of this one that actually shows you what's on MeTV right now. This would be so cool if it works over Zoom. Is it appearing?
Yeah, it is.
Do we have audio?
I doubt it because I don't think I have the audio settings set up.
Okay, just as well. All right. So things that you need to know about this, it's keyboard friendly. You can do everything with a mouse, but I want to show you a few quick keyboard commands. I hit the space bar to pause. I hit the space bar again to unpause. Plus and minus are for volume. The X command stops what you're watching and takes you back to the menu. There goes X. And anytime you can press the S command, S as in Sam, and quit out of the program. If you go and power off system, it doesn't power off Kodi, it shuts down your machine. So be careful of that.
So Terrence Tech said he could actually hear the I Love Lucy in the background.
I figured, now it may be because I got audio through here and it's coming through my microphone.
That could be. Yeah,
But
I don't
still.
have the YouTube audio turned up, so I couldn't tell, you know.
Right. Yeah, right. Me neither. It would echo.
Right.
That's it. I have gone through everything that I planned to go through. We got 6 minutes left, so we can take questions or.
So my experience with Kodi was maddening. I mean, maddening when I first tried to use it, because I'm even though I came out of the tradition of using the keyboard for everything, when I'm in a graphical program, I assume the mouse is going to work, and it just doesn't with Kodi. I mean, you have to just master the keyboard commands. You know, if all else fails, hit the back key.
Right.
it's so weird and non-intuitive in a windowed environment. But if you think about what the tradition it came from a game controller, right?
Exactly.
The Xbox media controller, media center. So Xbox XBMC. So the entire interface was designed for going backward and forward, right? So there you go. It translated great to the keyboard, but not so great to the mouse.
So this week, if you don't have a Pi, just go to Kodi.tv and install it on Windows, or install it on your Mac, or whatever. Install it on your Android tablet and start to play with this. It's a ton of fun. And once we get some of those under your belt, like I said, next week we're going to come back and we're going to do a Plex server so we can save our content.
Very cool. And so it might be an obvious question, but if I've got a Raspberry Pi and I've got Kodi installed, I can run an HDMI cable to my big television and
exactly right. And then that's the way I do mine. And I use the little wireless keyboard I brought in here some time ago, so I can sit on my couch, or you could run a long USB cable and control it from there. And you don't really need the mouse much once you get used to using the keyboard. The days of mouse are behind you. All right. Looks like we're caught up on questions.
Terrence has a question.
Oh, fire away.
Any advice, this is at 355, any advice on where I can find info to get Screen Talk to work on Ubuntu? Driving me nuts. I've heard, Terrence, that's more of a putt than a drive, but I wouldn't say that out loud.
I have never tried it.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to put that on Uncle Notes.
Yep, put that on our notes for next time.
Give me something to do this week.
We'll have an answer for you.
Okay, Screen Talk on Ubuntu.
So that was very cool, Dave.
Thanks.
In Kodi now, I think I was trying it on the Pi 1, which was a frustrating experience.
Absolutely.
So now we're well into the Pi 4 days. And at a whopping,
it's a much better world.
Yeah, so worth trying again. Is there a specific site where you buy cases for the Pi?
Millions. Pick your pleasure. So obviously Amazon is way overpriced. Adafruit, who we've mentioned in the past, Newark, Element 14. I buy mine usually off eBay. There's some really good deals on there. And if I'm not buying them there, I'm a patient guy. I'll go to AliExpress and pick up a dozen at a crack for $2 or $3 a piece.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the same goes for just about every other peripheral. I'm glad you like that, Transplant. All right, 3 minutes. Let me do any closing stuff that we got here in the notes. We're caught up on questions. So I do this because I'm an instructor. Bear with me. When I teach a class, step number 1, tell them what you're going to tell them. Step number 2, tell them what you're telling them. And then step number 3, tell them what you told them. So quick review. What did we do today? We used WireShark to compare secure and unsecure web connections. We checked out port 80 and port 443. We saw the TCP handshake. We saw the secure encryption negotiation. Then we installed WireShark on a Pi, and we found that the one big trick is to make sure that the WireShark group gets created by the installer, and then add users to that group, and then you can use it fully from the graphical interface. And then finally, we talked through a Kodi installation on a Pi, mentioned the other platforms, and toured some basic setup and configuration using Kodi. Next Friday, Plex server will be the big feature. I think Scott's planning on joining us again, right, Scott?
Heck yeah.
Sweet. So we're going to make this a team effort until you say, get rid of Dave. And then we'll make it the Scott show. And again, I'm looking for your emails, other things that you want to talk about. If you don't come up with something in the next few days, I'll come up with a couple of interesting things, I hope. We'll use WireShark again, find one more cool thing to do. Contact us, daveR@totalsem.com, scottj@totalsem.com, and take advantage of the discount. Code was MMLive Yellowstone.
Yellowstone.
All one word when you check things out. Anything else, Scott? Because we did it.
That was a lot of fun, Dave.
And on time. First time I didn't.
Oh, well, see, that's okay. Telowit has a good question.
Fire
Or not
away.
a question, but a suggestion.
Okay.
About building a drone out of a Pi.
Yeah, I saw he found projects to do that. So it's interesting. As I've mentioned in the past, Pi is not the best thing to run a drone, but it's doable. So yeah, we'll look into that and see if we can talk about that and see what's out there and what people are doing. Cool. Flex, says Terrence. All right, well, we're on the hour. If Michael's watching, it's been great having you again. As always, gratitude to Michael Smyer running in the background. Thank you for joining and becoming part of the team, Scott. This is wonderful. While he can't hear it, many thanks to Mike for letting us do this on Fridays. We hope you're enjoying it. And most of all, our gratitude to you for coming and sharing your thoughts and questions and picking up some info from here.
Absolutely.
We'll see you on Monday for the regular AMA. See you on Wednesday for the regular AMA, and see you again on Friday for this one. Till then, bye.